beyond imagination. Hundreds of the inmates had died under these conditions. Their bodies were left where they fell for days. Then, fearing the arrival of the British troops, an attempt was made to bury the bodies. Several hundreds still lay in heaps where they had been dragged by other inmates. It is impossible to put it to writing. 70 years since the Nazi experiment of Jewish extermination failed. Tonight, we remember their crimes, their machinery of destruction, their chilling hatred, and we commemorate our losses, which we have all learned so much about. Yom HaShoah is a night to remember those who were murdered, those who suffered at the hand of Jew hatred. Yet, tonight's ceremony is not relegated to past events. Tonight's ceremony cannot be a mere commemoration. For who in this room can commemorate Jewish pain as if it were the thing of the past? Who in this room recalls the anti-Semitism of the Holocaust and does not remember those who continue to fall to the same enemy in our days? Who mourns the masses murdered 70 years ago without wondering what the next month will hold for Ashenu Kol Beit Israel around the world? We remember our fallen. As we hear the echoes of the past and the horrors of this year, we must confront a simple question. What are we to do? As you listen to tonight's speakers, hear the call underlying this ceremony. I am never again is the resolution to be alert, honest, and active, to not be taken by surprise, and to never again be passive before those who wish to destroy us. Tonight's commemoration is as much about the future as it is about the past. Consider your own fate next to the fates of your Jewish brothers and sisters, and decide what your future will hold. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem and Hatikvah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallant.